All right. I'm about to take you guys on one hell of a road trip here, okay? So, the other day, I was chilling on Twitter, relaxing, having a good time, and I saw a tweet from Lauren Southern, who, as politically interested people, I'm sure many of you know who she is. I saw this tweet. Now, this is the first time I'd heard anything about this, okay? I had no clue that Lauren Southern was writing a book, specifically a book for children. And I read the tweet above it, as well as the, main outline of the book here, and everything. And it caught my interest. And I decided I want to talk about it on stream almost immediately. Well, that's a bit of a spoiler right there, but we'll get into that in a moment. I decided I wanted to talk about it on stream, so let's go ahead and read the tweet first. The ABCs of Morality was created to combat the woke takeover of children's literature with wholesomeness instead. It's okay to be masculine. Bravery is good. Don't fall for the trap of groupthink. Pursue virtue and wisdom. These are just a few of the lessons in this book. Now, what drew me in and made me want to talk about this is that for the longest time, I've heard conservatives argue that the left is trying to indoctrinate kids into a political ideology, and that is a problem. So I thought it was weird to see a conservative essentially advocate for and engage in what I view to be the same thing, essentially, right? You're trying to teach kids conservative values, or more so traditionally conservative values, right? So I went ahead and quote tweeted this, and I said, want to cover this on stream, but no way in hell am I buying it. Anyone have any screenshots of the pages? Because I wanted to get a few pages of the book to cover on stream, to talk about if I did a segment about this, but I didn't want to buy the book because, I'm a 21-year-old man. I probably don't need to own a copy of a, ABC's book, right? And I was quite blown away when Lauren Southern quote tweeted me. She said, "Thanks for choosing to review the book. Here's a little freebie. Excited to see you dunking on teaching kids kindness, humility, virtue, and wisdom. Cheers." There's a bit of sarcasm there, but it's the internet. I can get down with it, right? And she links a page of the book, I presume, because she linked this page on Twitter publicly. It's okay for me to cover this. Also, you'll notice that does this art style look familiar to you guys? Hypers, if you recognize the art style of the illustrations here. Anyone in chat? Anyone recognize this? You should. If you're on Twitter, you should know. This is the art style of George Alexopoulos. I actually can't pronounce his name. It's Alex and then Opoulos, okay? So, it's do what you can there, okay? And you'll know that, yeah, he's the guy that made the comic where the black woman is like, "I'll never vote for you," to Biden. And then Biden says, "Then you ain't black." And then sears the blackness out of her face and leaves her smoldering on the ground as a white girl. Pretty funny, to be completely honest, and good art as well. Though I have to say, I think his art in this book is considerably better than his normal art style. You can tell it's his, mostly because of the character shapes, the eyes, the faces, the backgrounds and stuff. I actually much prefer his art style in this book than his normal Twitter art style. So that's my little take there. And she links a page here, which is H is for humility. And I actually don't have a problem at all with this page, which is why when we review the book, we're only going to be going over the letters and pages that I feel the need to take issue with or to discuss. Besides that, and I've already read the book, and I'll get into that in a minute, most of the book isn't really worth arguing against. Most of it is completely fine. It's a lot of the pages and the letters represent ideas like this one, which are don't be a dick and rub it in if you've achieved something, which is just an idea that I take no issue with. But I will go over the ones in this book that are particularly disagreeable on my end. So H is for humility. Fair warning, the the explanations for the words are like rhyming. It's meant to rhyme, right? So I'm gonna read it in sort of like a poemy or what's the word for it? Like a folktale, rhymey kind of way, right? Humility is showing character and decency. Think if you've shown it, if you triumphed recently. Did you win a race or prove that you're very smart? Did you sing quite beautifully or paint a piece of art? How did you react when you discovered those new talents? Did you brag and swagger or keep your mind in balance? Don't lie about your gifts, but do not rub them in. Otherwise, nobody will be happy when you win. Honestly, does anyone take issue with that? A limerick, thank you, Lucas Jeffrey, a limerick. I take no issue with that page. I have no swagger. Yeah, I take no issue with that idea, right? Like, obviously, you should not be an asshole and rub it in when you achieve something. It's just kind of rude, right? So I quote tweet her and I say pog, and I continue to tweet, I'll buy Lauren Southern's book and review it on stream if she agrees to come on and talk about it with me after. And then she quote tweeted me and said, it's a deal, enjoy, and then an X. And then she followed me. Look at that, she follows me. Now, I'm not going to show our DMs for the sake of just politeness and whatnot, but me and Lauren have talked in Twitter DMs a fair amount. We've been in contact, and she has agreed that after my review of her book, she'll be willing to talk in private and then set up a public discussion. Now, whether it'll be just like a discussion or a debate is up in the air. We haven't really figured that out yet. We'll see what happens. Personally, I'd be down to have a discussion where we go over each one and it not be like a full-on debate. But if that's what she's down to do and that's what you guys want, then maybe that's what it'll be. I don't know yet. However, as you know, I agreed to buy the book. And I checked the mail last night. I got it right here. It just came. It just came. So, of course, chat, stop being weird. Or I'll ban you. Oh, mods, get on the shit, okay? It just arrived. Now, I have one complaint right off the bat, okay? I do have one complaint. But this is for the book's sake, okay? The mail people, when they were delivering the book, they bent it. It's got a bend. They fucked up my copy before I even got my hands on it. Yeah, North America's shipping head ass. Look at that. They bent my copy. And the sad part about this as well is the fact that this book is actually going to be one of a few that exist of this exact version pretty soon. I talked to Lauren about this earlier today. You'll notice the C's, where it says C here, there's an apostrophe S, which apparently was an error. I didn't even notice it at first, but apparently it's being revised in future publications of the book. So that's special, right? Because I ordered it so quickly, like the day that it came out. I have a special version of it, and it would be essentially mint condition were it not for it being bent probably like this in transport. But you know, it is what it is. There's only so much that I can do. It was out of my control, right? So what we're gonna do, I already read over it, okay? So this isn't gonna be my first time reading it. This isn't like a first time reaction or anything like that. But I read through it, and there were a few pages, a few letters that I felt like I wanted to go over. However, and this is important, I need to read off the second page of the book here. I promise it's relevant. No portion of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means electronic, mechanical, photocopy, recording, scanning, or other, except for brief quotation and critical reviews or articles, without the prior permission of the publisher. Now, while Lauren Southern herself has given me the her blessing to review this on stream, I'm not going to just go through the book and read every page and then just review that, because that would basically be pirating, and that is illegal. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not even going to show all the pages that I decide to talk about. Instead, I'm going to go to the pages that I marked down. I'm going to read them over, and then I am going to respond. And some of the pages, if I feel it necessary, I will actually show. Also, you do all know your ABCs, I hope, so you may not need, I hope you don't need to see the page to know what we're talking about, right? But, you know, we got to respect the law. We got to respect copyright. So, why don't we take a look at the cover here? You guys want to look at the cover? Look at that. We got, here we go. Oh, yeah. I think the thing that sticks out to me the most right here is that depending on what the A block is made of, I think this girl's about to get like hurt pretty badly. That is about to fall over. And I don't know how dense the material that that A is made of, but that girl is in some serious danger, you know? It's backwards. I know it's backwards because my camera is flipped, so you guys will have to just read it like it's Japan. Left to right, or right to left? Right to left. Yeah, that's how it is in Japan, right? Yeah, it's made of titanium and steel. Yeah, A is for abolish copyright. But let's get right into it, huh? The first one that I felt the need to talk about was the letter E. Okay? And I think this is the first one that I'm actually going to show the I'm actually going to show the page for. Oh, let's go through. Okay, all right. E is for equal opportunity. Everyone is equal when they're judged on the same scale, praised if they're successful, and accepting if they fail. Everyone, both boy and girl, of every race and class, should live by the same standards that they should strive to surpass. Don't try for special treatment for your friends or for your enemies. If you lose a game, that's fair, and you can learn from the memories of what you might have done wrong and what you can do right, which is always better than a rigged and unfair fight. So, on a surface level, if there wasn't a political implication, which the book, you know, admits to in the back, well, society has progressed. It seems we left behind the basic building blocks of our civilization, our morals. We know how to cure disease, TikTok, Zoom, and even how to fly to the moon. Do we know how to be humble? Do we know how to act with wisdom? Do we know how to think for ourselves? The ABCs of morality is a fun, wholesome primer on basic concepts of politics and soul that are too often forgotten in our confusing modern world. So the idea behind the book is, in fact, to instill a political notion to the reader, which would, intentionally be, younger kids, right? So were this the idea of equal opportunity on its own, I would not take very much issue in this, honestly. And that's actually true of most of the pages that I took issue with in this book, was the fact that if this was completely isolated on its own and I just read this without any notion of the political opinions of its author, I actually wouldn't really even feel like it was worth discussing. But knowing who made it and the political opinions of Lauren Southern, it's hard for me not to sort of draw a correlation between what's said here and what Lauren Southern has said in the past about political topics. So a pretty common conservative idea is that we live in a meritocracy. I believed this back when I was a reactionary, before I moved away from the right. I believed that we lived in a meritocracy, that if you look at the laws, at least here in America, in the West, there are no laws in the books that specifically say that, like, for black people, for example, are lesser than white people, right? You'd have a hard time finding something like that written in the law, in text. So it sort of gives the idea that we do live in a meritocracy, meaning everything is equal for everyone. And if you work hard enough, you can always make it. But we find a lot of examples where this just isn't the case, right? Any understanding socioeconomically of race in this country will make it quite clear that we just don't live in a meritocracy, and it's a very unrealistic way to view the world. There are particular groups of people in this country that, due to long-standing treatment, and even treatment today, are essentially kneecapped before even the starting line of the race that is living successfully in this country, or in this world, really. And I feel like the idea that we live in a meritocracy is a very dangerous idea. We need to have I believe the term is sociological imagination, meaning that rather than looking at everything at completely face level, you look beyond the face level and dig into all of the different mechanics behind certain issues outside of what you might just see at first glance. And I feel like that's something that this particular page, or the message it puts forward, kind of falls short on. So yeah, B is for Blue Lives Matter. None of the pages I would say are like that that upfront with any political bias as like B is for Blue Lives Matter, right? I think one of them might actually. The next one follows right after, and that's F. I'm actually going to show you guys, yeah, F in chat. This one I am going to show the page for. F is for femininity. Silky hair and dresses. Bright flowers and bouquets. Girls can be so beautiful in many different ways. Gentle daughters, tender mothers, lovely, loving wives. These are all the feminine aspects of women's lives. Some girls aren't feminine, and that's okay too. If you want to be a tomboy, just be you. I do like the little bit on the end there, though I would like to put forward the, I want to show you guys the image, the illustration that comes along with it, trying really hard not to damage the book whenever I move it. You know, we have like hold on, what do we got here? We got a princess up on the top right there. We got like a mom at the edge of the top of the F. We've got a girl who I guess is a tomboy. I guess she plays softball because let's be honest, softball's a girl's sport. Nobody can convince me otherwise. We've got a girl that's kind of doing like a little dance, the blonde girl there on the right. We got like another girl who looks like she's also a dancer. We got a nerdy girl. Is she a gamer? Oh no, that's not a controller. That's a dog treat with a dog. Now, the reason why I showed the illustration for this one in particular is because of, no, I'm completely right. Softball is a girl sport. Is because there's going to be another one later. I'll give you a hint, the letter M, that let's just say the idea behind it will become very obvious when you compare this page for femininity and the page for M. Okay? Let's just hold that in mind, okay? I guess to argue against the idea here, I'll say that the idea of femininity and masculinity, especially today, has kind of transcended the genders they were traditionally associated with, right? Nowadays we have femboys, you know. The word femininity, is in the name, right? And obviously in the case of tomboys, these are women who are more masculine, right, in their presentation. So it seems like the idea of femininity being like completely associated with women is a little bit odd when even in the poem here, or the stanza, the limerick here, it says that some girls aren't feminine, and that's okay, and you can be a tomboy and just to be you. So it just kind of seemed, I don't know, it just kind of stood out to me. It seemed like a little contradictory to me. The next one is G, and I'm not going to show the image on screen, image on screen. The illustration, I'm just going to describe it, and then I'm going to read this off, right? G is for groupthink. It's so easy to accept what those in crowds believe, but if they are wrong, it means more people who will grieve. History has told us that folks are often led to throwing out their reason and trusting mobs instead. Groupthink is a nasty and quite well-hidden trap. When you first step in it, you might not feel it snap. It's not that it's wrong to trust in other people, but think for yourself so you don't follow them to evil. So, the image depicts a kid hiding behind the letter G as like an army of mindless robots stand and listen to like another robot preaching to them all. Now, you know, groupthink is bad. There are a lot of very bad groups and ideologies that engage in groupthink, echo chambers, what have you. However, knowing who wrote this, Lawrence Southern has many times called the left, an echo chamber of groupthink. And if we're being honest here, this is true of every political ideology. There's always going to be people that are, very groupthinky in their ideas. However, it seems like conservatives tend to be the ones that engage in groupthink the most. Every time something happens, I feel like it's always conservatives that are like, if like the Brie Larson thing, right? Brie Larson said something vaguely feminist that one time, and then every conservative YouTube channel, like the Quartering, Geeks of Gamers, and so on, made hundreds of videos on Brie Larson, right? And their audiences just ate it all up, and anyone who spoke out against them, they dogpiled, right? This seems like a much bigger example of groupthink among conservatives than any examples you could find on the left. And trust me, I'm a very vocal critic of the left. You got to criticize the group that you're part of to make it better. So, I'm not opposed to that. And I believe the next one I was going to do is J. All right. J is for justice. This one's going to be pretty interesting because I believe this one contradicts two other letters later on, and I want to get into that later. J is for justice. Sometimes people do nasty things, like steal a guitar and break all its strings. The only way to make things right is to repair that sort of slight. This is justice, which fixes crime, and lets you heal from hurt with time. If someone acts in a way that's wrong, they will face justice before too long. And the illustration is a court, and there's an evil robot dude in handcuffs, and the robot's being sentenced to presumably some punishment, probably prison, right? So the problem here is that what justice is completely arbitrarily assigned, right? In a society completely ruled by, like liberals, for example, to try to appeal to, Lauren Southern or conservative audience that could be watching, if you say the N-word, that could be against the law, and you could go to prison for it. And in that society, that would be considered justice. Justice is a very arbitrarily defined idea. So I guess it's just kind of, I don't know. It just kind of seems weird to have such a broad definition of justice, right? But we'll get more into that definition later because, well, actually, we'll get into it now because it's relevant here. L is for liberty. It's hard to put liberty into a rhyme. Trying to hold it down feels like a crime. Liberty is not concerned with any rules and laws. She is far more interested in a much greater cause. Like your rights to worship or speak out as you please, to think and observe the world without too much unease. There are always people who would silence and oppress. Those who fight them beg for liberty in their distress. Liberty is when there is nobody saying no, when you can do anything with everywhere to go. So, what stands out to you there in that definition of liberty? I'm not going to wait for your answers. Liberty is when there is nobody saying no. Now, this is a really weird idea. For starters, laws are pretty important, right? There are a lot of things that we want to be illegal or that we want someone in the way to say no about, right? We probably shouldn't allow murder. We probably shouldn't allow pedophilia, things like that, right? There are certain things that it's probably good to have someone in the way saying no, right? I really doubt that Lauren Southern would be interested in defending these things. Obviously, this is the case within reason, right? But then there's also the paradox of tolerance, which I feel like extends to this as well. There are people out there that stand against liberty or the ideas of freedom and tolerance, right? The problem is, if you tolerate the intolerant, tolerance may cease to exist. This applies to liberty. If you grant liberty to people who would use that liberty in order to destroy the liberty of others, then liberty will simply cease to exist. If you give people the power to get into government and take the rights away from people, you're getting in the way of their life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which kind of destroys the whole point, right? That's the main idea behind the paradox of tolerance. And then if we extend, obviously, you could argue that the liberty is when there is nobody saying no. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to be the law. It could also just mean nobody is arguing against your ability to do what you want. But then again, if someone wants to argue with you about something or argue against your preference, wouldn't it be against their freedom of speech, their liberty, to say they can't do that? Yeah. It's positive and negative freedoms, of course, Lonnie, yeah. The next one is M, and this is another page that I'm actually going to show once I finish reading it because I feel like it's worth comparing to the one for F. As many of you could probably guess, M is for masculinity. Masculinity is a powerful trait you see in men, whether in a knight or a truth teller with his pen, an athlete scoring points or a lion's mighty roar, or a soldier winning a hard victory in war. These are masculine because they're fearless and they're tough, because they face adversity, which means when things get rough. We need masculinity for protecting us from danger, whether from wild animals or from a hostile stranger. Not all men are masculine, and that's also okay. Gentleness is just as good as bravery some days. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the illustration here. So we got the big M, we got like a scientist, we got a boy lifting like some weights, we got two boys lifting weights, just a dude kind of chilling in the grass there. I think this dude that I'm pointing at here with my finger, he's a femboy, okay? This guy, this is a femboy, all right? Because he's wearing shorts. Shorts that go above the knees. That's what that's the tell, okay? Then we've got like a nerd here that looks like he might actually get beaten up by these two jocks playing football. Now, I want to draw a comparison to the masculine from the masculinity page to the femininity page from before. If we go back here, we can see there's a pretty obvious comparison here between the way that the women were depicted and the way that the boys were depicted. Scientists, truth tellers, athletes, women, dancers, ballerinas, princesses, and so on. Now, obviously, these are traditionally masculine and feminine things, so of course that would apply, but it's also worth pointing out that when we see the examples of masculinity here, masculinity is a powerful trait you see in men. Didn't it not before say that there are masculine women as well? Whether in a knight or a truth teller with his pen, I mean, women can be truth tellers, an athlete scoring points, or a lion's mighty roar. Correct me if I'm not wrong, but aren't lionesses the ones that are like the hunters and protectors? Because in a pride of lions, from my understanding, this is a good comparison to nature, how different gendered dynamics are. In nature, lionesses are the ones that take care of the kids. They're also the ones that hunt, and also the ones that are like the most aggressive and violent. Because in lion prides, it's usually a bunch of female lions and a main alpha male lion that leads the pride. And most male lions, once they come of age, they're kicked out of the pride, or they overtake their father, and then they go on, right? Because the lions have like a harem, right? But traditionally speaking, at least from my understanding, female lions are always the most dangerous because they are always the most ready to fight. They're the strongest. They're the most willing to fight. Generally, male lions are lazy, but female lions, they're the ones you actually have to worry about. Like 99% of the time, when you see videos of lions attacking some person's car on like a safari, It's a female lion. It's rarely like the big maned male lions. It's usually a lioness. I didn't really have an issue with N. Yeah, for those curious, N was nothing. The N page was nothing remarkable, okay? Here's the next one. Oh, shit. Blablado, you must have read the book already. God damn. All right. O. We've got O here. Oh, boy. We're on O. O is for opinion. Opinions are beliefs, and whether wild or exact, they're thoughts about what we should be, or what should be, instead of simply fact. Some have strong opinions on what they love and hate, and that's fine as long as they are open to debate. I agree with this so far. I'm a debater myself. I do love debating people. Without diversity in opinions, I'd be out of the job. Maybe you like pizza with no toppings and just cheese, but your friend wants pineapple and pepperoni, please. You can then discuss what you prefer to eat and why, and maybe you'll convince them to give plain old cheese a try. But perhaps they won't agree, and that's okay too. They like what they like, and you know what's for you. Disagreement is healthy. Stay open to critique. Different opinions show we are all unique. My nose is itchy. Pardon me. On a surface level, this is another example of a page that I don't take issue with on surface level. But when you know the context behind it, that's when I start to feel like there's something to be said, right? So a lot of conservative figures, or conservatives in general, will say that a lot of their beliefs that are perhaps a little bit more problematic are just opinions, right? The problem is, if you are a figure who has a harmful opinion and you spread that opinion, then more people are going to hold that opinion and bad things can happen. For example, what's somebody that everybody hates? Conservative and leftist likewise, right? I don't know. What's a good example? What's a good example? Pedophiles. We all hate pedophiles. Everyone hates pedophiles. That's good, right? So, like, if you have, like, pedophiles on Twitter talking about how good it is to rape children, I know, dark analogy, but it is what it is, right? Epstein's on Twitter talking about that, right? I think it's probably reasonable to say him having the right to spread his opinion about that being good might cause enough harm to the world that maybe that's not a good opinion to have, and maybe it should go further than just arguing against his opinion, right? Maybe he should be deplatformed. Maybe. From, like, Twitter, you know? Maybe. Though he was deplatformed from life. By himself. Allegedly. Probably not, though. My nose is, like, really itching right now. Oh, good Lord. Help me. Here's another one. P is for patriot. Patriots are those who love the country where they live. They ask every day what kind of service they can give, whether to their neighbors or their family or their state. Patriots are certain that their nation must be great. You should never feel bad because you might adore the customs of your country or its land and lore. Patriots are everywhere, and they're found far and wide, waving every nation's flag with hope and pride. And then you got a bunch of kids walking around, and they got different flags. You got a what's the white flag with the red dot on it? I actually don't know which flag that is. Is that China? Japan. Oh, well, I'm racist. Got me. Racist on camera. Yikes. Yikes me. Clipped. Neat. Well, I don't know. I don't care about flags. I still don't know the difference between the Italian flag and the Irish flag, okay? Scottish flag? I don't know the difference between Irish and Scottish people, okay? I'm racist. I'm very racist. Clip it. I want it clipped. All I know is the American flag, because that's all that matters. Then we got the American flag. We got a girl carrying either the Irish or Scottish flag. I don't know. The Australian flag. I know that one. That's the South Korean flag. Then the Brazilian flag. And there's a purple one that's kind of, jutting off from the side of the page. I can't actually see which one that is. The kids are doing their thing. They're walking down. It's not a bad image. I don't really I don't really mind it. I can't show you. It's the flag that I don't know is green, white, and orange. And it's 3 lines, and the white's in the middle, the green's in the left, and the orange is on the right. What is that? Ireland? Scotland? Ireland? That's Irish? Okay, Irish. Thank you. And she's got red hair. That's how you know she's Irish. Patriotism. Well, thing about patriotism is that patriotism is nice when the ideals of the country that you stand for are good. But it's not so nice whenever the ideals for the country that you stand for aren't. It's kind of on a case-by-case basis, so gotta keep that in mind. My nose is so itchy right now. It's actually insane. I'm gonna blow my nose. I'm gonna do a be right back. I basically just rubbed my nose in my arm until it stopped itching. All right. What was the next one I wanted to do? R. So, I think the only reason that I wrote this one down is because it had this line. Well, feelings matter. We also need facts. That was the only line that made me want to write this one down, because we basically got facts don't care about your feelings, and I thought that was funny. So I just felt like I wanted to get that one, okay? Here's another one. S is for slander. Slander is when someone tells a lie to cause others shame in the public eye. Slander is more than a nasty rumor. It's meant to destroy like a wound or a tumor. And slander can happen to anyone. Still, when you face it, it is never fun. Don't tell a lie with your voice or with text. They might believe it about you next. So, slander. Slander is something that I'm fairly well acquainted with. I've been slandered quite a bit. The problem is, a lot of the time, you hear a lot of people claim it's slander when something they did is discussed and talked about, right? I've heard conservatives say it's slander to bring up clips of them saying something they've said in the past. So, I don't know. Just thought that one was worth talking about. Next is T. And I feel like this rounds together the 3 particular pages. I feel like form their own little arc, right? Excuse me. J for justice, L for liberty, and T for tyranny. Tyranny is when folks with power get nasty, and their treatment of subjects is utterly ghastly. No thinking, no acting, no freedom at all. You'll get on your knees and scrape and crawl. When powerful men think they're better than you, they have forgotten what's just and true. It's the government's job to serve the people, not to say that our faith or our thoughts are illegal. Tyrants promise the world, but they hold the bill, but you hold the bill, which is why you should not bend to a tyrant's will. So the reason why I feel like, and I agree with this, of course, tyranny bad, big hot take, tyranny bad. But I feel like this ties in with patriotism and justice, right? Because should you be patriotic if your leader is a tyrant? Is it justice if a tyrant makes the laws and that tyrant determines the punishment for breaking those laws and those laws are unjust? Because this idea and this contradiction is the base idea behind, for example, BLM, right? Just because, for example, George Floyd was a drug addict who had like a spotty criminal record, does that mean that he deserved to be murdered? Does that mean the cop that murdered him deserves to get away with it? Of course not. Even if George Floyd was high as a kite or robbing something whenever he did what he did, or whenever he got apprehended by the police, that doesn't mean he deserved the death penalty there on the spot. I know conservatives have argued that he wasn't killed, but the video is there. He's getting crushed. He's saying, "I can't breathe." That's where the quote comes from. That's the main idea behind the BLM movement. Oh, sorry. He had a counterfeit bill, not robbing. I apologize. It's been a while since the meme happened, okay? But this main three contradiction is exactly what BLM is all about, right? Is it good to be patriotic no matter what, even if a tyrant is in charge? And should we trust a tyrant's or a tyrannical government's laws if those laws are unjust? And will justice be met if it is a tyrant's justice? Probably not. Probably not, right? This next one is interesting. U is for utopia. Utopia is fun. It's the perfect society. No work, no evil, no fear or anxiety. Nothing but playing and eating ice cream. Doesn't it sound like a beautiful dream? That's because, like a dream, it's not real. It's just fancy and empty ideal. If someone says they have a perfect vision, odds are they just want to sow more division. We can aspire to be truly grand, but we must be real about what we demand. Humans aren't perfect. The proof that can back this is what all utopias look like in practice. I feel like this one is a reference to communism or socialism. I mean, I feel like it's fairly obvious. And the main thing I want to say about this is that the word utopia gets thrown around a lot in sort of a snide way to try to disregard the motives of certain people. You should always try to strive for the best world that you can get, and no matter how unrealistic it seems. Oh, what's that?
I don't know.
I think it's your birthday present. Okay. Oh, wait. Don't open it yet.
I just want to right here.
We'll open it on stream, okay?
Yeah, I can open it after stream. You want me to open it on stream?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I gotta.
Okay, cool. Love you, babe. Lonnie's Christmas present, or not Christmas, birthday present came. I feel like the word utopia gets thrown around a lot. You should strive for the ideal world that you want to see as much as possible, no matter how unrealistic it seems. Hey, I'm rhyming, like unintentionally now. But that is what you should do. Also, I want to point out, imagine the life of somebody 100 or more years ago. The world in which we live today is utopia in comparison. Really think about it. Back when people had to work on farms and hunt and gather for a living and were riddled with parasites and diseases, the idea of us having the idea that somebody, even 20 years ago, the idea that somebody could have my job, where I literally just sit in front of a camera and talk about stuff to an audience for a living, even that almost seems utopian, right? Nah, the world's still shit for a large part. Nigel the 74th, if you think that in comparison to over 100 years ago, that the world isn't utopia today compared to then, with the increase in quality of living, even for poor people, that we have nowadays, then your entire worldview, your entire understanding of how the world works is completely, yes, but I don't live 100 years ago. Nigel the 7th, or I'm banning you. I'm banning you, actually. I'm sorry. You bring the average IQ of my community down too much. We're practicing eugenics now. We're doing it. All right. Let's move on. TVWX. There we go. We're at X now. X is for censorship. Just kidding. X is for Xander Hall. No, I'm just kidding. X is for censorship. Xenial, Zulos, xylophone, or xenon. There are many words I could lean on. X is a really hard word to rhyme, or letter to rhyme with. So, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, and you gotta rhyme the letter X with things like that, okay? X isn't only a letter, though. It can be very dangerous, so you should know. X is the symbol of censorship. I disagree. Free speech and thought are what that seeks to strip. Censorship's dangers are vital to know. Because XXXXXXXXX. Oh. I'm just going to point out the amount of X's here is the same amount of letters as my name. So I'm going to pretend like it was censoring my name because Xander Hall is what that says. I'm just going to go ahead and headcanon that in, you know? It is the right amount of X's, you know? Oh, are you getting curious? What's blocked by that X? Sorry, they censored that part of the text. You'll never know what it said or might say. This is why censorship's never okay. Nobody believes this. Nobody believes that censorship is never okay. We should probably censor child porn. We should probably censor videos of people being disemboweled. Things like that are probably things that we should censor. I think everyone can agree with that. Although that's a fairly uncharitable depiction of or read of her point here. It depends what you describe as censorship. Should the government censor what you're allowed to say? No, never. Under any circumstances do I think the government should be allowed to censor what you say. Unless it's a threat, right? Like if you're making an actionable threat towards somebody, it's not really censorship to arrest them if you think there's a good chance they mean it, right? But if it's like Twitter, a private platform banning somebody, then it's not censorship in the way that we would probably think of, right? That's deplatforming. You're still allowed to say whatever you want. You are just having the private platform taken away from you because you broke the agreement that you agreed to when you got that platform. It's like if you were on the street and there was a guy there with a megaphone and you asked for the megaphone. He was just like, yeah, sure, just don't say anything weird with it. And then you started screaming random terrible things into the microphone or into the megaphone, and they took it away from you. It's not really censorship. It's just taking back the platform they gave you because you broke the promise you made when you got that platform. The final one is Z. Z is for zealot. Zealots are folks so sure of their opinion, they'll bite, scratch, and claw to attain pure domination. It's not just believing with honest conviction. That's just how you ought to defend your position. But zealots are not simply those who believe. They're those whose beliefs make them proud to deceive. Even if their beliefs are often proven wrong, they'll still keep on singing the same foolish song. Because when one loves a lie, because it feels good to tell it, you can be sure they've turned into a zealot. So, that's the final page in the book. And I want to talk about that final one. Because I feel like 99.9% of the time, zealots tend to be conservatives when it comes to political discussions. Conservatism is based on the idea that because things have been how they are in the past, then we should keep it that way, right? To preserve certain things in society, right? That's pure zealotry to me. Just because it used to be that way and things have been okay in the past, then we should keep it that way. That just sounds like zealotry to me. just as much as anything else that you could say, right? Now, what is my final opinion on this book? Believe it or not, if you gave this to a kid, I don't think they would pull any harmful political ideas from this, besides maybe the one about equality and the idea that we're on, like, in a meritocracy. Besides that, you could probably, like, I probably wouldn't be too upset if, like, on its own, in a vacuum, with no other political memes, right, were they, was this, like, given to a kid for them to read. I actually wouldn't take a huge issue with it. In regards to children's literature, for starters, obviously the illustrations are phenomenal. I mean, as much as I disagree with George Alexopoulos, his art is quite good. I mean, you know, look at it, guys. Look at that art. He's a good artist. He's a very good artist. It's very nice. I respect him as an artist, and it's cute. Look at that. It's cute. It's very cute. The art definitely gets like a 9 out of 10, if not more, from me. The kids are doing an OSHA violation. As for the rhymes, it is very hard to rhyme stuff, especially with a lot of these letters. I think Lauren Southern did a good job with it. As for the political messages, I mean, obviously I would have to give it a pretty low rating of, like, I don't know, 2 out of 5 on the political message, because I'm not a conservative. However, even with the conservative messaging, a lot of these pages, a significant amount of them even, aren't that bad. Even the ones that I felt the need to talk about here on their own, in a vacuum, really aren't that bad. And I have to say, I'll eat my own words on this one. I was pleasantly surprised by the contents of this book. Not bad. It's not a bad book. I can't say that I'm too upset that it exists. It wasn't bad. It was a good read. I enjoyed it. I had fun. And it was a good segment. And I hope you enjoyed my review. K is for Corviday. Yeah, nice. Alrighty. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. I hope you did enjoy it. If you're new to my channel and you want to see more from me, please subscribe during the bell icon. I really would appreciate it. You can also comment down below to help the channel in the algorithm. If you want to debate me on anything, you can contact me through Discord, link in the description. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram down in the description below. As well as if you want to support me financially, you can donate or sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live. This is my job, of course, so you can always, you know, support me financially if you want to help me out. And on YouTube, you can super chat or hit the join button, become a channel member, and it's always appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.